because I really love portrait photography, I feel like every time I am interacting with people, especially people that I don't know super well, like new people, I would say I'm almost looking at them with a photographic eye, like, okay, what, how would I photograph this person? What would I want to bring out? What would I want to convey? What am I seeing about them right now that if I was to sit them down in a studio and try and photograph them, like, how would I approach that?
Taking also some of the elements that this individual has to offer. For example, I will genuinely say, when I interview artists like you, I take a lot of things, not only from what they are saying, but also how they respond. What is their body language? I'm just wondering, when you interact with your customers, does this change your personality? Do you think that you grow?
Yeah, I think like we all have our sort of like ideal customer and our ideal couple or ideal person to photograph or whatever it happens to be. But those people are almost too easy because it's like they're the ideal. They're what you know. It. Of course, those are the people you want to photograph. I don't know that you grow a ton as a photographer when you're doing that all the time. Like I think you can because you can take risks and you can try new things and stuff like that. But I think I always feel like growth comes right at the edge of comfort. There's this idea in if you look at the edge of a forest line where it meets with like grass. So if you look at a big field, and then if there's a forest behind that field, if you look at that sort of 10 to maybe like 5 to 10 meter chunk between the field and the deeper part of the forest, that's where there's the most biodiversity. That's where there's the most different things growing because you have these two kind of worlds meeting, and it's a very rich environment for growth. And that's like that's sort of like you're right on the line of like discomfort for both of them, where like that space is not actually ideal for the forest and it's not ideal for the field because there's just too much going on. And so you see a lot of growth, you see a lot of different types of things growing, and you see this intermingling. When I think of working with somebody who, where I'm trying to pick up on their cues, I'm trying to understand what what they're comfortable with, what they're uncomfortable with. I think sometimes when you have those sessions where it's a little more difficult to get people to open up or a little more difficult to kind of find the way in, that's where I feel like I grow the most. You know, photographing, making a beautiful picture of a model is not all that hard. Making a really compelling, beautiful picture of somebody who doesn't want to get their photo taken is much, much, much harder.
It's
And
more
so, and
challenging.
that's
It's more challenging, right?
yeah, yes, yeah, that's a better way to put it. Because they could still photograph beautifully, but you have to create an environment where that's possible for them, and you have to try and meet them where they're at. And so, because of that, you're sort of meeting them right at that discomfort level for them, and it's making a discomfort level for you, and you get all that biodiversity, all that growth in you as a photographer. At least that's how I feel.
Wow, you gave me already so much feedback regarding the, yeah, the biodiversity and all these things. So I think this is a good chance to go to the most funny, let's say, part of our discussion. What is the
Sure.
craziest art form that you have experienced besides yours?
Interesting. That's a really good question. I feel like I was pretty deep end for a while into like some of the weirder, like for lack of a better term, the sort of like hippie movement and scene. Probably one of the weirder experiences I had. I was living when I was in high school, the last year of high school and the year after that, I was living on an organic vegetable farm, and it was run by some very like alternative people. Very cool. And we actually, so we were working on this farm and then living on another farm. And on this other farm, um, where we were living, they had this big jam band festival. So all these different like sort of like I don't know, like Grateful Dead or Fish or those kind of bands. All of these bands came, and there was a point where it was like 2 in the morning, and there's this jam band playing inside the barn, and there was somebody. So there's this jam band playing, and then there were people doing like fire spinning. And so they were doing all this fire spinning, and while they were doing the fire spinning, there's people doing body art on the ground on other people. And so there's like this jam band playing, and there's like spinning flames above my head while other people are just like completely naked getting their body painted. And it was like this weird, like, I was like, I don't know where I fit into all this, because none of this
Did
quite
you
feels
fit? Did
right.
you
But
fit as well? Did you do the same, or you were just observing?
I think in true photographer form, I was very much like fly on the wall, like just like what is happening around
So
me. And
you were
like
the photographer of the event.
I wasn't, but I mean, I guess just more like that mindset. Like I was just like, I just want to
Okay.
capture what's happening here.
Yeah.
So, but it was also like, it was on the property where I lived, so there was no getting away from it. It was just like I had to just like be there the whole weekend, right? So that was probably one of the weirder. Yeah, I would say that would be it.
Okay. Interesting. You mentioned about music. If you had any
Yeah,
experience with artists from the music industry,
sure.
and what kind of genre of music they played, some funny
Hmm.
stories there. Yeah.
Yeah, the first, actually, I haven't thought about this since it happened. The first photo shoot I ever did, I was, I think, like 16, and my friend's band wanted photos, and I had just gotten a digital camera. Um, I was so excited, but I had saved up my money from my job for like a long, long time, and I bought the Nikon D80, which was like at the time a very good camera. It was still like it wasn't like a professional camera, but it was in that kind of prosumer level kind of thing. Um, so I had that with the kit lens, and yeah, the first photo shoot I ever did was with them. And they were a band that played like kind of like punk metal hardcore music. Um, I can like remember the images super well. I don't have any of them, but I can remember them. I can remember perfectly the whole day. Like I remember like getting them like classic photo of them standing in front of a brick wall with like the lead singer in front and the other guys behind. And I had like a reflector, but I didn't know how to use a reflector. I didn't even really know what it was. But the guy who owned the camera store just gave it to me. He was like, "Here, you can use this," and I had no idea. Like I didn't understand any of it. And so I think we ended up using the gold side of the reflector and washing them with like this super warm light. And it like created this very weird color cast of like all this kind of warm color, but like we were trying to create this like gritty photo. So it was very confusing to look at. But that was the first shoot I ever did. And I knew them. I mean, they were people I grew up with, but I played in bands growing up a bunch. Like we never really did like any touring or anything like that, but like I was always playing music with people.
What kind of instrument you play?
I throughout school, I always played the bass.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, that was my yeah. I think the only reason I did is because my brother played the bass in like his high school, like in school in their jazz band. He played the bass, and so I had a bass lying around, and so that's what I started to play. And I got really into that. That was like the main thing I got in. I would say like when I first started exploring like art, it was through music for sure. And I was full on like that's what I thought I was going to do for sure.
And you played in bands,
Yeah.
right? You played in what type of bands? Yeah, what kind?
Yeah, a lot of like punk and hardcore and metal kind of stuff
Okay.
is what I was into. Yeah, I was really. I
Any
would say
name?
I'm the
Any
type of
name of a
person.
band that you can share with us?
Uh,
That
I don't even
even
know.
though I don't know if you have any recordings or maybe people can dig out in YouTube some of the
Oh
stuff that you
no, I
did.
don't. I feel kind of grateful that like YouTube wasn't really a thing yet.
Oh, really?
It was, but
So,
just barely. Like I mean, because I graduated in 2008, so YouTube had been around for a couple of years, but it just wasn't used as heavily as now.
okay.
I don't think there might. Oh, I don't even know. I can't. I think the last time I talked to somebody who I played with was maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. I have no
Oh,
idea.
okay.
But it was always like one of those things where I would I played with a lot of different people just because I grew up in a small town and there's like one bass player. So you end up playing with a lot of
Yeah,
people.
that's a reality. Usually the bass players are very hard to find, also the drummers.
Yes, exactly. So like, yeah, there's a million singers and guitarists, but drummers and bass players, like I played with a lot of the same people over and over. Um, and then I played like the guy who taught me bass. I had a bass teacher, and I would play with him sometimes. Um, and we would do like classic rock kind of stuff, like I don't know, like Neil Young and Deep Purple and stuff
Classic rock.
like yeah, like bar tunes. Like we would
Yeah.
play at bars during the day and like on weekends and stuff like that kind of thing, or like jazz fest, stuff like that.
I think you already answered me something that I wanted to ask you. What would be another art form if it was not for videography? What would you like to do? Probably music, right?
I think so. I think like I was just talking yesterday or the day before with my buddy Liam, who's a great photographer, and I do some second shooting for him. And he's just kind of getting back into music himself. And I think it's something, yeah, I think if I wasn't doing this, it would be that. I would like to be good at like drawing and stuff like that, but I'm so bad at it. But I do think, I think music would be it. Every 6 months or so, I think to myself, like, man, I should just start playing in a band again. But I never actually do anything about it. It takes up too much time. But I still have a guitar. I still play occasionally.
Do you still play like for fun, for your own pleasure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it kind of ebbs and flows. I'll go through times where for a few months I play almost every day, and then I won't touch it for 3 or 4 months, kind of thing. So I found it's hard. Yeah, the older I get, the harder it is to find time for everything.
Yeah.
So, but that is
And you
something
have
I would
also
like to look
family
into.
to take care, so that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think gone are like not entirely, but I think in a lot of cases, increasingly, like it's harder to not to make time for your family, but like people have like even kids really have their own life to a degree now that I think they didn't used to. When it comes to like social media and so like my partner's son is only 7, so he doesn't have any of that stuff. But he loves his iPad. He loves to play games. He likes to do his own thing, and he is sort of a similar to how I was as a kid. Like he likes to have his own time, and so when there is opportunity for us to all be together and do something, like I want to take advantage of that. So I don't want to be like, hidden in my room, like playing guitar or something like that. When we could be doing something together.
Yeah.
And maybe what I hope, it would be really cool if one day it's something he wants to learn.
Yeah, because you can teach him.
Yeah, but right now, like he's obsessed with drawing. That is his thing. He loves drawing. He's really, really talented for his age. Like he's the way he thinks, the way like he's able to put his ideas onto paper is really cool. And that's something that I'm pretty bad at.
Did you teach him how to draw, or it was like self?
Yeah, totally self-taught. He through that and through YouTube. Like he watches videos on how to draw. So like he'll take a show that he likes, and then he'll watch videos on how to draw those characters. And it's so cool because I think it's really easy for us to look at the idea of like a kid sitting on an iPad and think it's negative. It's really easy to see that and think like, oh, they're not building social skills. They're not like, they're addicted to their screens and stuff. And I mean, we all are addicted to our screens. So I don't think that's a fair thing to put into like onto a child, but seeing that he's using it like
creatively,
he's using this, and he's using this digital thing for this very analog process. And then, I would say, if we say to him, like, what do you want to do tonight? His answer is usually draw, which is incredible.
How old is he?
And he's 7.
7. Wow, that's an amazing answer. Indeed, like all kids would say, I want to play football. I want to go out and I don't know, run or do other activities or play video games. But he's like drawing. Wow. So he's really drawn into that. And, well, I have to ask that. Does this remind you yourself? Did you at that age were you also drawn into?
I don't know. I mean, I think around that age, I'll be honest, I've a pretty bad memory of my childhood. Like I don't remember a lot. But I think I remember getting pretty into drawing for a little bit when I was a little bit older, but I think what I see in him that reminds me of me is that he's like very thoughtful and very introspective, and he feels like he's a pretty emotional little boy, and he really feels things, and he takes time to try and understand them. And that's something that I really relate to. I feel like I was very much the same way as a kid. And I do think, whether he's conscious of it or not, I think he processes that through his drawing. Um, Sometimes it's more obvious, like certain things he'll draw where you'd be like, oh, like this was something, like we went to this place and did this thing and you're drawing that. But other times I'll see drawings where I'm like, wow, like that's very evocative of a feeling. And I can really get an emotion out of that. And even if he's not aware that that's what he's doing, I can see that. And that does remind me of, I think for me, like when I was a kid, I really liked writing stories. And I think that's sort of similar. He's doing it with pictures, but I think for me it was with words. Like I think I really liked to make up stories and stuff like that.
What kind of stories, if I may ask? Fictional or reality? What, like a diary?
Yeah. No, usually like fictional stuff. I never really had a diary or anything like that. That wasn't I've tried in the past. I've tried to like journaling and stuff. I can't commit to that kind of thing. But yeah, as a kid, I think like just I remember like I would read a book, and I feel like I would sort of retell my own version of that book to a degree. Like it's so I remember really distinctly reading a book. It was a book written by an English author, and then what was it called? It's a kind of famous book, but
like
I'll
old
see
time
if I can
classic
find
author, or
No, I think it was written in like the 60s or 70s, maybe.
okay, then I won't know.
Maybe even early 80s or something. But it was like a pretty formative book, and I remember reading that and then writing a story afterwards, and including all of these words that were like clearly like instead of saying sweater, writing the word jumper and stuff like that. Where I would take all these like British terms and put them into my. And I remember like writing it, and my mom being like, oh, okay, like you yeah, you just read this book. So like clearly it was like I'm pretty impressionable, and I had to learn how to funnel that into like taking inspiration from things,
Yeah.
And allowing them to influence me through my work, rather than just like, because it's really easy to just sort of see something you like and try and mimic it. I think what I learned through that process was how to like interpret things and turn them into something more unique for myself.
Actually, the word photography, it's a Greek word, it's called photographia, and it's like writing with light. So to say, you when you were a child, you wrote some stories, and when you grew up, you decided to write some stories with the light, with the photos that you take of the people and the situations that you are into. Great. So, just out of curiosity, I read you told us that you owned some cafes, and were there any competitions that you were part of, or did you do some story that you want to share with us, something out of the ordinary, while you were
Right.
working as
Yeah.
yeah.
So there are what are called like barista competitions. Basically, the way I always describe them is, so you have 15 minutes and you make 3 courses of drinks, and while you're doing that, you also give like a presentation. So it's sort of like a mix of like a cooking competition and a TED talk kind of smashed together. Like you're trying to convey something, you're trying to tell a story, or you're trying to, like, let's say you want to talk about the coffee itself, or like a concept that you have surrounding the coffee industry, and you're using the drinks that you make as a sort of vehicle for that. So I competed in that competition a lot. Like I think probably at least 10 times. It's a yearly thing. So there's like regional, national, and then world competitions. And I did that a lot. That was like a very important part of my life for a really long time, like every year. And I always did pretty well. I think it played to my strengths, because a lot of it, outside of the technical side, a lot of it is just how you communicate. And so I learned a ton from that in terms of how to effectively communicate what you're trying to say, in a way that allows you to like convey the right message with as little words as possible. I don't always follow that advice in my YouTube videos. Sometimes I wax poetic a little bit, but yeah, that was a pretty big part of my life. And my partner still works in the coffee industry. So we were
Okay.
just like last week, we were just at the National Barista Competition in Canada. So I'm still very, very tied into it in a lot of ways.
Okay. Awesome. Chris, I think we can conclude this discussion by a message that you might want to give to the people that follow you on your social media, also the people that subscribe already to your YouTube channel, like me, what they should expect in the future. And from my side, I just want to thank you for being for having this conversation with me. It was, at least from my side, a very insightful. I took a lot of things out of it. So yeah, the stage is yours. Please give the last message to your followers, and also if you want to say some more things, where they can find you, your website, and these things.
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you. Like this is I really like getting to connect with people and getting to take time to do stuff like this. So thank you. It means a lot to me. And I think I was kind of thrown off because like I just started this channel a couple months ago. I'm still very much learning how to make it work. One of the things I kind of promised myself was that I would not let perfection be the enemy of good. That I would put out videos I wasn't happy with entirely because I knew, like, I don't know about you, but the amount of times I almost started a YouTube channel and then just never did it because I didn't feel like I could do it in the way I wanted to. And even with this one, like I had this idea of like this is what everything's going to look like. These are the shots I'm going to use. This is how it's going to look and feel. And then like when it came to it, I was like, okay, well, I don't have a beautiful studio that I can do that in. I don't have, I don't have the time and the budget to do the thing. Like, there's so much more I want to do, and so I guess when I'm thinking of like, you know, something that I just over and over think about is like, I actually don't know why people subscribe to my channel yet, in the sense that I'm like, I don't, without sounding negative, like it's like I probably wouldn't stick around and watch my own videos.
I think this is the
And
curse of every YouTuber.
right.
They don't want to watch their own videos.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so much untapped potential there. And so I guess when I'm thinking of like people that have subscribed, firstly, I'm like so grateful and like true. I know people say that, but like really truly, it is like I get kind of choked up thinking about the fact that like I look at like the metrics of it and I'm like, oh, this many hours of people's attention, like thousands of hours of like, so like I'm trying to get myself the nuts and bolts of it. I'm trying to get myself to a point where I can monetize the channel. That's the goal. That is the first goal because I as much as I love doing it, I can't put 20 hours of my week into something that's not giving me a financial return yet. I could do, if I was further along my career and making more money, I could probably do that. But I'm not making enough currently to be able to justify that much time going into just that hobby. So that is the goal. But when I think of the fact that people have actually jumped on board and said like, yeah, like I'm willing to support this. I'm willing to give you my time and my energy. It's unbelievable. Like but and at the same time, like I know it's an easy thing to just like hit the subscribe button, but the amount of videos I don't do that on, like there's lots of videos. There's people I've probably watched every one of their videos and I still haven't subscribed for no reason other than I just forget to, or I just don't. I have no reason for it. So the fact that people have taken that time is super cool. I think what I really want to do with the channel, I've got this series that I've just sort of come to now that I'm really excited to start exploring. Like up to this point, I've made 2 videos every single week, and starting this week, that's going down to 1 video. There could be times where it's more, but for now, I'm not going to make myself do more than 1 video a week. The goal being to be able to put twice as much quality. So not to spend less time on YouTube, but to spend the same amount of time, but just on a singular video so that I can improve the quality of it. but I've just come up with this new concept that I want to do because I don't know about you, like there's all these creators I follow that I think are just unbelievably good. And I look at them and I'm like, wow, I wish I could make that. And then I sort of think to myself, like, well, I probably have, for most of it, I probably have 70%, 80% of the gear that I need to do that. There might be certain things they do that I don't have access to or whatever, whether it's a studio or whether it's like certain things that allow them to get certain really unique shots or whatever. But I can do most of that. The only thing really stopping me is time and like the learning curve to actually go do that. So I'm going to be working on a series of videos that I'm calling, it's going to be called Fake It Till You Make It. And basically I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to pick 10 or 20 different creators on the platform I really respect, that I really love. And I'm basically going to make take my usual content, but make it in the style of those creators. So the idea being, almost like an homage to those creators and saying like, I think your work is great. Today we're going to talk about doing like a 2 light setup for portraits, but we're going to do it as if I'm going to do that as if I was, I don't know, Jake Frew or somebody like that who I really appreciate their work. And I think that'll be a really fun project, and I think it'll allow me to sort of like expand my creativity a bit and get a bit better. So that's the plan.
Maybe your website and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so on social media, it's just my name, Chris Tejas Photo. Chris Tejas Photo. I do have, and then from there, it linked to some of my other Instagrams because I have like a street photography project that I do kind of quarterly. That is linked to that as well. And then my website is just christejaszphoto.com, and you can find everything there. And one other thing, I am also working on this ongoing project right now, and you can find it's there's this incredible ultra runner named Christy who is running a 200-mile road race, which is crazy to think about. But she's also a living organ donor. So she gave a kidney to her brother a few years ago, and so she's doing this all with one kidney.
What?
And so we're telling that story, and that's a long form documentary we're working on that should be around like a 30 to 40 minute documentary we're trying to create. And so that we're looking for some support, looking for people who are curious about it, and just getting some information out there. And that's all at the website's called, it's One Kidney 200 Miles, the number one kidney 200 the number miles.com.
So, okay, great. So people can reach out also for this. I will link all the information below the video, so people can reach out to you if they can provide some information, and of course, if they want their portrait taken or any kind of service from you, they are in Ontario, right? In where exactly you're in Canada?
Yeah, I'm in Ontario, just outside of Toronto.
Okay.
So like Southern Ontario, but I'll go wherever people want me if they're if they're willing to have me. So yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.